First, this. In all seriousness, Supreme Court showdown. Republicans setting a deadline of 10 a.m. tomorrow for Judge Kavanaugh's accuser to submit prepared remarks if she plans to testify on Monday. Christine Blasey Ford alleging that Brett Kavanaugh sexually assaulted her more than 35 years ago. Senator Chuck Grassley also demanding to see the unredacted letter sent from the nominee's accuser to Senator Dianne Feinstein dated July 30th. President Trump weighing in on the message yesterday.
Why didn't Senator Feinstein bring this up at her meeting with Judge Kavanaugh? Why didn't the Democrats? They knew about the letter because she was showing it to Democrats. Why did they wait till everything was finished and then bring it up? That doesn't look good.
Joining us now, former federal prosecutor Joe Moreno. Joe, your take on this, how this plays out.
Good morning, Dagan. It's hard to say. I mean, it's amazing that we know how important Supreme Court confirmation hearings are, and we know how important it is to respect and protect the victims of sexual abuse, and yet here we are in an absolute spectacle. I think it's a little unwise for the majority to insist on a deadline. I think they have to be somewhat accommodating here. I think Senator Grassley has gone a good way to say, look, I'm open to an open hearing, a closed hearing. I'm open to sending Senate interviewers to California to have a sit-down interview. But at the end of the day, I think he has to be accommodating to try to make sure Dr. Ford is given the opportunity to have her piece heard.
But the issue is, Steve Forbes, and you can get in here, is that the attorneys for the accuser and many other Democrats are demanding a full FBI investigation. And therein lies the rub, that the FBI is not responsible for investigating and then making political judgments on what they find out as they would in a traditional criminal case. Under the Constitution, ultimately, the Senate is the ultimate judge of fitness of a nominee appointed by the President of the United States. That's a constitutional requirement. So at least it seems like they're at an impasse. Chuck Grassley has gone out of his way to say you can be in public, you can be in private. Aides will even fly to California to interview this woman. Do you think we hear from her publicly?
I think, use the phrase, the end of the day, yes. If you're a victim of a crime, you go to the court. You're subject to cross-examination. And everyone is very sensitive here about what allegedly happened to her 35 years ago.
Yes.
And that's why the chairman, Grassley's gone out of his way. You want to do it in private, you want to do it in public. But at some point, you have to go out and make your case to the committee and to the public. Judge Kavanaugh will have his say. She should have her say in a public forum. She can say she didn't want to do this. The Democrats forced her to do it. That's fine. The American public wants to see both sides heard.
Joe, this is Marie Harfier. I have a question for you about these other people that have been named as possibly testifying. You know, this accuser has put Mark Judge in the room in her account of what happened. Some people are saying he should have to testify. There are other potential witnesses. It seems like it might make sense, if we want the whole truth and nothing but the truth, to hear from more people than just Judge Kavanaugh and Dr. Ford. What's your take on that?
I think that makes sense. I think it has to start with Dr. Ford and Judge Kavanaugh, as any investigation would. So you start with the accuser. Okay, tell us the story in your own words, at your own pace, with your lawyer present. Lay it out for us. Then we hear about, okay, who else could corroborate this? Let's identify those individuals. Then let's hear from Judge Kavanaugh. So I think it makes perfect sense to start a hearing with the two principals, but there should be an open mind as to hearing from others. It just seems to make sense to me.
Yeah. Well, one of the issues is, and the loudest, angriest voices are from some women who are Democrats. I talk about Senator Hirono. Said all men in the country need to shut up and step up. Joy Behar on The View, even though she's not elected, she's still considered a very loud liberal voice. But I'll point out, if they're concerned about, if the Democrats are about women's rights and protecting victims, someone who is a Democrat victimized this woman by leaking her name to the press and outing her and putting her in a situation where she now is being called to speak. in front of the world. So I just think that there's a deep, hideous irony in that.
Well, and she said, Dr. Ford said she never wanted to go public. She wanted to remain anonymous. I have deep concerns about the fact that Democrats did not raise this in private meetings with Judge Kavanaugh, that they didn't raise it in the private closed session they had with him during his confirmation hearing. That, in my mind, would have been question him in that setting. But we are where we are now, unfortunately, and we have to figure out how to have a fair process moving forward where we hear from her and we hear from him.
But, Steve, the Democrats aren't going to be satisfied until they have a lengthy FBI investigation that many are pushing simply to delay this confirmation vote until after the midterms, hoping that they, by miracle of all miracles, get a majority in the Senate, or they hope to use this as a bumper sticker that Republican men basically abuse women and are all liars. That's really this. You want to talk about a political football and chicanery? The Democrats are all over this.
It's sadly become political. And Dr. Ford is simply a part of, sadly, being the football kicked around in this whole thing. And I just wish there was a way for the public to realize that the Democrats have used this not for a purpose of justice, but pure, raw politics. And it's wrong. And that's why I hope she testifies on Monday so the public can see it, the committee can see it, and we can come to a conclusion.
And Senator Senator Claire McCaskill also tweeted that she's going to vote no on Judge Kavanaugh last night. That, of course, narrows the political Democratic votes that the nominee can secure. But I don't think anybody's surprised by this. They're using this issue of the accuser as a crutch. But these Democrats were going to vote no against this nominee to begin with.
I saw that. First off, I think just tactically speaking, it's really bad strategy to announce on the day someone is nominated, as many Democrats did, and since then that they were not going to vote for this person even before the hearings had started. So I think that's a bad strategy. Look, you're going to do what you're going to do at the end of the day, but to kind of say that out front, you then taint the entire process because there's no pretense anymore that there's any objectivity. You've already made your decision.
Hey, Joe, it's Mike Murphy. Do you see a situation where we can hear from the accuser and get her story and then just quickly follow up with a vote on Judge Kavanaugh? Is there a way that, respect her, but also respect the process at the same time?
Look, I think there's multiple ways to get the story from the accuser. I mean, you could do it like we said, in hearings, closed or open. You can do it in interviews. You could probably even get an affidavit from her. And then that'll just go to the weight of the evidence. Obviously, if you can't ask her questions, then the evidence has less weight. So an affidavit is not going to be as powerful as verbal testimony. Look, I think that it's really important, not just for Judge Kavanaugh and Dr. Ford, but for the American people to restore some confidence in this process. So I think that Republicans have to be amenable to accommodations, but also not be taken advantage of.
And they have been amenable, despite what, say, Senator Hirono was alleging in this expletive that she used in an interview yesterday. So great to see you. Thank you for being here, Joe Moreno.
Thanks. Good to be on.
President